Hello YouTube, welcome to my YouTube channel, Anna Bella, and today I'm going to be reviewing Joseph Smith, Stone Rolling. It is a cultural biography of Mormonism's founder by Richard Layman Bushman. It is an extremely famous book regarding Joseph Smith. It is one of the few books out there that actually looks at the whole historical Joseph. Both religiously, politically, economically, culturally, and socio. His whole role in building society. It's an absolutely fascinating book, and what's really nice about it is the texture, because the book is actually rough. So that is one of the features I like. This is a very old portrait of him. It's not a flattering one either, because he's a little bit dubby in it, and then on the back you can see like it's won awards. It is a very well researched book. Ever since I've owned this, if I've wanted to look up anything to do with Joseph Smith specifically, I come to this book. So there's a little bit about the writer. He's from Columbia University, and he's taught at Brigham Young University, Boston University, University of Delaware. So he's an incredibly gifted historian. This looks at Joseph Smith as a historical figure, which is really important because he is a real historical figure. He's not a fictional character at all. So we've got a list of maps, Joseph Smith chronology, 4 generations of Joseph Smith family, the preface, the prologue, and then it starts off with Joseph Smith family, the first vision, the translation, a new Bible, the Church of Christ. Then it goes all the way down. We have 29 chapters, including an epilogue, then confrontations. And as you can see, so we've gone from 1841 all the way to 1844. And 1844 is actually split over 2 chapters. Then there are notes, sources, illustration credits, and an index. Here's the maps. So we've got Maxon Smith's in New England. So the chronology of his life. So when he was born to when he died. It's a brilliant book. 4 generations of Joseph Smith family. So it's all here. And remember, these are all real people, and you have to be respectful because they do have descendants that are living. And I think that's really important when you research any historical figure at all. So that's the prologue. And you've got the Smith family, the first chapter. And each chapter is self-contained. Maps, illustrations are within. They take from people's journals who are family members, who aren't family members. Sidney Rigdon, Oliver Cowdery, Brigham Young are all mentioned and all cited in this book. It is a really well done book. So you've got all the various chapters. The Order of Heaven. Every aspect of his life is looked at, from being a presidential candidate, from being a religious leader and visionary, from being a prophet, from running a bank, from being a town planner, everything. Everything, even the arguments are made clearer that happened between people. And they did argue, because weirdly enough, in history, we often say within the church and that in the past, members were much better at separating out the man from the prophet and knowing how to tell the difference. So there's the notes, and they are incredibly detailed. So you go to the preface, and there's all sorts of notes here. If you want to find out how many people were charged with Joseph Smith's murder, it's between 4 to 5 people. They were put on trial for murder, but it couldn't be proved that their shot actually killed Joseph, though it was proved that those 4 to 5 people did shoot him. I, for one, believe that the fall from the window had a huge impact on his death. See, it's here. There's a journal entry. There's a map entry. There's even the scriptures. There's the ensign. There's all sorts. That's Enigma. There's links to ensign articles. There's links to academic articles. There's links to a random person's newspaper clipping that they managed to save. There's all sorts of stuff. From this book, you can find out anything to do with Joseph. And not all of it is to actually do with running the church. Just pointing that out, it covers his whole life, is in here. The good, the bad, the ugly, as it should be. Because people are not perfect. That's just a fact of life. So you've got sources cited. So all the sources, you can look them up. See, look. Joseph Smith Junior Autobiographical Sketch, 1862, Church Archives. So they've used stuff from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They've used stuff from the Community of Christ. They've used stuff from Emma Smith's journals, her kids' journals, everybody's journals, illustration credits, an index. It is a mine. If you've got a question about Joseph Smith specifically, not necessarily the church, because there are two separate entities, this is the book you end up coming to for information on bank collapses, on basically everything. It is all in here, and we do have some lovely photos and maps from the time period. So we've got Death Mask, Joseph Smith's mum, Emma Smith, with David Hiram Smith as a baby, Hiram. Then we've got three witnesses, Oliver Cowdery, David Whitmer, Martin Harris, Signa Rigdon down the bottom here, Book of Mormon, where they grew up, plans, town planning, Kirkland Temple, inside the Kirkland Temple, the bank, Liberty Jail, the Chicken Man, William Richards Joseph Smith's clerk. Then we've got Nauvoo Temple, Eliza Partridge Smith Litterman, Robert Campbell, Epileps from Joseph Smith's Nauvoo Legion uniform, Benjamin West, Death on the Pale Horse, a smaller version of this immense painting, larger. It came to Nauvoo and was on display in June 1844. Joseph Smith apparently enjoyed looking at it, but it came to Nauvoo and was displayed. Brigham Young, and then a sampler of the Nauvoo Temple surrounded by the names of the 12 apostles, illustrating one person's sense of Joseph Smith's legacy to the saints. So I suspect there were loads of these done by Relief Society ladies and young women practicing their stitching. So this is an important historical document. It doesn't even have to be paper. It can be a bit of stitching. And that's what I really like about this book, is it looks at everything from newspaper articles to journal entries to letters to diaries to photographs to people sewing to the scriptures themselves, the LDS Quad, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. It's all mentioned here. Anything any of the early founders of Mormonism did that is connected to Joseph, where they had a meeting, it is mentioned here. You can find it. This is a really well-researched piece of history, and it is really well done. I recommend this book highly. Yes, some people may think, oh, but it proves this, that, or the other. It doesn't. This is the historical Joseph. It looks at him culturally, socio-economically, politically, religiously, town planner, political candidate. All the Josephs are in here. Con man, mentally ill, they are all in here. And only with all that information can you make a decision about anything from a historical person. So it is absolutely great that we have this book. The church is producing their own bibliography of Joseph Smith the prophet, which will be an interesting read, because the current books they've been producing, the saints books, are actually the history of the church, not of a prophet, the whole church, from its founding to it becoming a big global beast that it is today. So that is that, but this is purely Joseph Smith's life. Yes, everybody else, like his wife, Brigham Young, Oliver Cowdery, they dip in and out of his life. Joseph is the constant in this book, and that's what makes it so interesting to read. We have a little bit of the aftermath in this book, as it says in the epilogue. I will just flip back to the contents for you, but you can see the praise. A splendid cultural biography, no one has come close to recreating a full and satisfying portrait until Bushman. It is unlikely that another book about Joseph Smith will precede this one for many years to come, and that's very true. This is the ultimate. If you want to find out anything that is both sort of the secular Joseph and the religious Joseph, this is the book to come to. What was he doing when? I mean, It doesn't tell you what he ate for breakfast. You're not going to find out that information, but you're going to find out pretty much where he was, in what year, what he was doing overall. And it is absolutely fascinating stuff, because it shows when he was doing church business, he had a certain aura about him. When he was doing regular business in his store, he had a certain aura about him. When he was doing political business, that was different again. Nauvoo Legion business, it was like all these different Josephs in one person. But that's life. And I mean, when you consider that he wasn't like 40 when he was shot, and the amount of stuff that he had managed to do or had inspired others to do with him, it's very incredible, really. It does require serious study and looking into for everybody, really, because it is complex. It isn't simple, and some of it isn't pleasant. And that's life. Life's the good, the bad, and the ugly, pretty much. But this is an absolute triumph. An absolute triumph. I particularly like his chronology. So we've gone from birth, then we've got translation of the Book of Mormon with Oliver Cowdery, Zion's Camp to Missouri down at the bottom, at the top here, School of Prophets in Kirkland, Joseph in hiding much of the time, Joseph discharged from arrest in Brogg's case, and then sealed to Emma Smith for all eternity. Then down here, Joseph shot dead in Carthage jail, and that's where it stops. And what is really frustrating is you actually want more from that. And it's like, hey, he's dead, but you want to know what happens to everybody else. And that's when everybody else sort of fragments and scatters. And I would really, really like a book about that. And I have done a review on what happened after the martyrdom, which looks at what happened to Joseph Smith's family and what happened to Brigham Young, Oliver Cowdery, Sidney Rigdon, because they were all still around when Brigham Young had finally managed to settle Utah. What he did was rather interesting regarding these early saints, the saints that hadn't come to Utah for whatever reason, and some of their reasons will have been valid. He sent people to go and speak to them about the Book of Mormon, about the early church, because he wanted to get their views, because he felt that their input was so important. He was like, we need their views. We need to know what they're doing now. Are they all right? What do they feel about the church? Would they like to come and visit us? We still think about them. We acknowledge the importance. And everybody who was involved with the Book of Mormon apparently did not retract from it. So that is interesting in itself. And the fact that Brigham took the time to go and do that, because Brigham Young is a controversial figure in his own right, as well as Joseph. I often feel that Emma, Brigham and Joseph were all right when all three were living. Remove one and the other two crumble. And that's effectively what happened. But understandably, Emma didn't want to travel anymore. She didn't want to go west. She suffered enough. So anyway, this is a fascinating book. Do check it out. I particularly love the rough stone rolling, because it brings reference to the restoration being a rough stone rolling down the hill and getting polished. And this book is very tactile because it is rough. And I like that. So please like, comment and subscribe, and do check out this book. I recommend it for all things Joseph Smith, not just him being a prophet of the church, though that is a main function of his life. It is not the only function of his life. There was so much going on and happening. Anyway, I've talked enough. Please like, comment and subscribe, and hoping that you're safe where you are. Bye.